everybody. In this presentation, I'm going to review some background information about ECE programs. Monday is Martin Luther King Jr. Day, and it's an important time to think about what his legacy really means for early childhood education. So take a minute on your own time and think about the work done by Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. and its implications on the field of education. In this presentation, we're going to talk about a bunch of stuff, and it's kind of a lengthy PowerPoint, so I'm going to break it up into 3 sections. First, we're going to talk about types of settings in early childhood education. Then I will specifically talk about the class tool, which is a professional development tool and an accountability measure used in early learning programs that rates teacher-child interactions. I'll also talk about the economics of early childhood investments, program approaches, and then we'll talk about any readings we might have this week. So what you need to know about programs in Washington State, if you're a parent or a caregiver or a teacher or someone looking to get into the field of early childhood education, you'll want to think about the purpose of the program, right? There's preschool, there's childcare, there's Head Start and ECAP, there's private school, public school, so many different options. So the first thing is to really think about the purpose of the program. And then, is there a description of the families who might use the program? How's the program funded? And is there a cost to families? What regulations, credentials, accreditation, or licensing is involved? How is the program monitored and by whom? Where is the program located? Is it in a church, an elementary school, a home, etc.? The length of the program. And this relates to the hours per day as well as the approximate days per year. And then what are the main issues that this program has to deal with in regard to providing a quality educational setting for young children? So here in Washington State, we have programs for children birth to age 5. We have center-based programs, family child care homes, home visiting programs, programs for families that are low income, early intervention, and we have foster care. We also have programs for children 5 to 8. These are child care settings that are offered in public schools, private schools. We also have special education for children 5 to 8, homeschooling options, virtual academies, school-age care, and foster care for children 5 to 8. So let's talk about child care centers. There's a lot of different types of child care centers out there. There's nonprofit, for-profit, military child care, and campus or workplace child care. If you are familiar with our college, we do have a child development center on both of our campuses. And then out at JBLM on the military base, there's a military child care. And then out in the field at large, there are nonprofit organizations providing childcare and for-profit. And then some workplace childcares might look like childcares that are in hospitals, that are for the hospital staff. All childcare centers are licensed through the Department of Early Learning, which is now called the Department for Children, Youth, and Families. And they have to follow specific laws, the Washington Administrative Code. We talked about the trilemma already, but think about how that trilemma influences access to the types of childcare available to all children. We also have to think about staffing. There are ratios, requirements, and turnover. So one person can only be responsible for a certain amount of children at any given time. And that changes between those who care for infants and toddlers. The ratio, I believe, is quite low, to those who care for preschool-age children, where the ratio increases a little bit. And then for those who work with school-age children, the ratio then increases to 15 children per 1 adult. And then the requirements of those centers for their staff changes or is quite different depending on the setting. For the nonprofit, for-profit, campus, workplace, and military child care centers, it really is up to the individual organization to determine their qualifications for different positions within their center. And so in some centers, a lead teacher has to have an associate's degree, where in other centers, maybe they need the state short certificate. So it really varies from place to place. And then we have family childcare, which is a great option for some families. And these family childcare homes tend to operate on a little bit different philosophy than a childcare center. This is a place where the hours may differ. I know that some family childcare providers open their doors incredibly early. I actually worked with one provider who opened her doors at 4 a.m. and closed her doors at night at about 8 p.m. to accommodate those with different working hours that are different from the 8 to that steady 9 to 5 kind of job. And these family childcare centers offer part-time and full-time employment, and often what you think of as a childcare home, you might think, oh, well, the person in the home provides the childcare. But in fact, these family childcares do employ caregivers, both part-time and full-time. It's very long work days. Like I said, the provider that I used to know was open from 4 a.m. until 8 p.m. And none of the kids were there that long. There are still laws around how long children can be in childcare during the day, but that was to serve for families who did have differing work schedules. And it does have a pretty significant impact on the family childcare provider. They often don't get sick days. They often work excruciatingly long hours. They often work holidays because, as we know, things don't just close down. People still have to go to work, and children still need childcare. The training has come a long way for family childcare providers. They have access to our state registry and database of ongoing professional development. But some of the challenges might be access to medical insurance or retirement plan and support in completing your taxes. The family childcares in Washington State are licensed through the Department for Children, Youth, and Families. They do have to follow specific ratios, and they have a more challenging impact of ratio because oftentimes family childcare providers have both infants and toddlers all the way through school-age care. So just because they have school-age children does not mean they can have 15 children. If they've got infants and toddlers, they could have one infant, one toddler, and maybe, I forget the exact amount, but it's a low number of school-age children. A licensor comes every 18 months to check on the facility. They check the smoke detectors, make sure that the provider is doing earthquake drills. They check their first aid kit and their first aid certifications. They ensure that the provider has liability insurance, check on any state issues, and make sure that the provider is meeting all facility requirements. And then this was quite some time ago. This was about 6.5 years ago. All family childcare providers were required to do the STARS childcare basic training and an additional 15 hours of training per year, which all center-based childcare centers had already been doing that. And then this just rolled in family childcare providers having to do that same level of training. Home visiting programs are offered in a few different ways in Pierce County. Most of you are working or living in Pierce County, so I'll speak to that. In Pierce County, there's Hope Sparks, A Step Ahead, the Family Therapy Center, and then there's early intervention in Pierce County school districts, include all of the school districts. And these programs serve children, birth or prenatal mothers, to age 3, and then some do extend to age 5 depending on the program. And Early Head Start has a home visiting program, and some Head Start grantees have home visiting programs as well. And they use programs such as Parents as Partners or Parents as Teachers as their curriculum. We also have some nurse-family partnership programs where a home visiting nurse comes shortly after a child is born to ensure that the new family has everything that they need and to answer any questions. Some of these programs are specifically for early intervention for children who have been identified as needing some type of specialized support for their developmental needs. And then some programs focus on family literacy. And then, of course, military programs also have home visiting. And the whole model of home visiting is that the parent is the first and most important teacher. And instead of the home visitor coming into the home to be a teacher for the child, the home visitor is actually a support and mentor for the parent. And so the home visitor will model how to do activities with the child, will coach the parent during sessions. They'll also support the family with resources in their community and just overall offer any type of support that the family may need in relation to their young child. Then we have Head Start and ECAP. Head Start is federally funded. ECAP is state funded. That's the primary difference between those two programs. If you're ever wondering what the heck is the difference, that's it. Head Start is federally funded. ECAP is state funded. And ECAP stands for Early Childhood Education and Assistance Program. These are preschool programs that were really initiated in the 1960s to really address poverty and the potential and risk for school failure for children who are living in poverty. And the purpose was to promote school readiness for low-income children and families. Head Start and ECAP both have a comprehensive family approach. They offer home visits, but not in the same sense of the home visiting program we just talked about, where somebody comes to a home for 90 minutes once a week to meet with the family. Home visits in Head Start and ECAP happen quarterly and really cycle around the ongoing assessments that are done. The oversight, like I said, ECAP is state funded, Head Start is federally funded. They serve children at 100% of the federal poverty line. I believe this may have changed. ECAP may be at 200% of the federal poverty line, meaning that they can serve more children. And their primary focus is low-income children and children with disabilities. And this is a preschool program. And so children come between the ages of 3 and 5 for a couple hours a day and participate in preschool. That's what Head Start and ECAP is. And there's also Early Head Start, which serves children prenatal through age 3. And Early Head Start has home visiting programs and center-based programs alike. And Early Head Start also has been greatly known for supporting teen parents. Then, when we think about our education setting, we have to think about the variance or the variation between public school and private school settings. And so in our country, everyone is entitled to a free and basic public education. Everyone, every child from kindergarten to 12th grade is entitled to a free public education. Anyone can attend. The required age of school entrance in Washington State is age 8. So children under the age of 8 are not required to attend school in Washington State, but typically we see folks entering at kindergarten age. We have state, local, and federally funded schools and public schools. It's regulated. There are specific credentials teachers must hold. Public schools are accredited. They're licensed through the Office of the Superintendent of Public Instruction. Teachers have to have a bachelor's degree and certification or endorsement. So, for example, I am a state certificated teacher in kindergarten through 8th grade education, as well as early childhood education. I had to get both of those certifications to teach in the schools that I was teaching at before I became an administrator and then started working at Pierce College. Some of the issues, now there are many issues with public education. We could talk about this all day, but some of them include the testing, the pressure, and the funding. And then public schools sometimes may operate around a philosophy related to a particular teaching view, a principle, materials, or religion, right? And families desire a particular method or view taught to their children. They're often funded through tuitions, grants, or endowments. The teacher's certification or the ways that are decided for folks to be qualified could be different in private schools. They may not need a bachelor's degree, a certificate, or any type of endorsement. It's really up to the private school and their accrediting body. They're housed within where they like as regulations and zoning requirements are met, and These issues tend to be more along the lines of curriculum choice, family involvement, and the belief that the private is only for the rich, and that's just not